Welcome back to another From the Driver's Seat. Today's little musings really only came to me as I was driving home from work today, and I happened to be driving behind a sort of a 2007 model new Beetle, and it made me think about car companies who have tried to reinvent, with varying levels of success, old model names and retro styled vehicles. Sitting in an original Fiat 500 now, my wife has a new Fiat 500 and also a new Fiat 500X, and I think that companies have done these retro vehicles with varying levels of success. As I say, I think Fiat have done quite a good job. I mean, they took the Panda and they rebodied it to look vaguely like one of these. When you park the two of them next to each other, they look absolutely nothing like one another, but it does carry some model kind of visual cues in the headlight positioning and the slightly smaller rear quarter windows and things like that. And it's a nicely proportioned car. So the Fiat 500 has been done quite well. The new Beetle that I was driving behind, not quite so much. Trying to reinvent a car that has, well, I mean, very dated styling, and the originals have got running boards and the separate bubble fenders and stuff like that. You can't really do that on a modern car, so the styling cues didn't carry across all that well. So the Fiat was good, the Volkswagen less so. And then that got me thinking about the Mini, the ubiquitous new Mini that is absolutely everywhere. Now, I'm a big fan of the original Mini, and actually I'm a relatively big fan of the original new Mini, but it reminded me, thinking about that, of a little story. I went with a friend of mine probably about 10 years ago or so to a BMW Mini dealer, and it was just when the second version of the new Mini had come out, and this salesman was mega enthusiastic about this car and all the things that were cool about it, and he took us over to have a look at it. And I took one look at the front, and I said to him, like, oh yeah, I said, it kind of looks a little bit like a Mini, but it also at the same time reminds me of, if your mate gets punched in the face in a bar fight and his face is all swollen up, you can kind of still recognise that it's him, but at the same time it just looks like a sort of swollen, weird looking version. And yeah, the guy looked at me like I'd just taken a piss in his pint. He was really most unimpressed, but they kind of ruined that one by evolving the original new Mini, which again didn't look a huge amount like a Mini but still had certain styling cues from it, and then they changed it into the absolute hideous monstrosity that it's become. Whereas some companies have evolved their cars quite a lot better than that. So the Mustang, obviously the Mustang has been around since 65 in varying guises, and when they replaced the Fox body Mustang in the 80s with the version that came after that I forget what it was called, but it was basically a slightly rebodied Fox body Mustang, they then decided to go back and reinvent it and make it look a little bit like a retro sort of 60s style Mustang, and they did that very well, and they've evolved that model and that version of the Mustang really well. They took those retro stylings, they evolved it, and it's now become something that doesn't really look particularly retro, but still is clearly part of that lineage. Whereas, as I say, the Mini, absolutely awful, but the new Fiat 500, the newest one, again, has some really nice cues. In fact, I think it probably looks a little bit more like an original Fiat 500 than the first round of retro Panda based Fiat 500s. But again, they've evolved that model pretty well. We've got a 500X, and although again it's not a 500, it's a big four-door car, it's evolved with some of that sort of styling that originally had those retro cues, but has actually become quite nice. And now Fiat have done it again. They've recreated the Topolino. And for those of you that don't know, the Topolino was the version of the 500 that came before this one. It was a little city car. Topolino means little mouse in Italian, and it was a cool little thing. It's probably the closest to the original city cars that evolved into this one. And although they've taken the name from that, they've literally made it look nothing like the original Topolino. What they've done is they've kind of made it an electric little city car, and they do a cool version with ropes for doors, and it reminds me a little bit of a sort of 500 or 600 Fiat Jolly sort of convertible thing that Pininfarina designed years and years ago. So yeah, just thinking about companies that are reinventing their back catalogue and which ones have done it well, which ones have done it badly. Have you got any favourites? Do you like companies doing that? Do you like them delving into their back catalogue and reinventing old model names and stealing ideas? Or do you think it's just the automotive equivalent of rebooting film franchises and never ever coming up with any original ideas? I think it's one of these very polarizing topics. You either love it and you think people do an excellent job of it, and some designers do, or you hate it and you think it's absolutely naff. So I'll leave you with that thought. This video has been a little bit delayed. All future videos for the next month or so are going to be a bit delayed because I'm working 6 days a week at the moment, and so I don't really have any time to be out here. But I do like to keep you posted with what's going on up here, even if there's not a lot actually going on around me in the garage. Till next time, take care.